Hey, good morning. Welcome back to Mike's Diabetes World. Okay, blood sugar to start today is 8.7. I had a few high points during the night. With the high, dropped down. Now I'm settling. When I calibrated, it was 9.3. So, like I said, you're never going to get the exact match, but that's pretty good, I think. Okay. Get ready to I'm at 84% time in range. Now we've changed around. Yesterday I was 13% of the time above 84% in range, 3% below, 7.8 average blood sugar. My doctor's kind of a little bit happy with that. I'm kind of out in the open. Just give me a sec here. Oh. Yesterday I was out of range and high 3.25% of the time. And what was it, 45 minutes out of range, which is better. We still maybe have to tweak, but today I'm a little bit higher, so it's all good. What I want to talk to you today about is Team T1D or Team T1D's. Stay tuned. This channel is provided for informational purposes only. Contact your physician for any diagnostic or treatment plan. Okay. My life as a diabetic began in my 13th year. Okay. I've always equated it to here's your car keys, go ahead and do it. In the first year or so, my mom prepared my food. She didn't really watch how much insulin I took. There were times that I knew I was in trouble, but because, oh, well, you're 14 now, you should be able to do it all. Well, let me tell you, parents, if you're entering into the teenage years, it would be great that you could believe that your son or daughter will be able to do it all. It's not something necessarily the best thing. I was pretty much an easy-go-lucky kid. And I would have to say, I didn't really monitor anything. Back then it was urine tests. And I could tell you for a fact, for me, the first things that went by the wayside was urine testing. Now it's a lot easier and much more acceptable that you just do a finger poke and you read. And so often or not, your pump does a lot of the work now, but your kids are going to want to investigate. Now, as a teenager, give the responsibility slowly and make sure that they start and grasp the concept of one part of it first. Don't kind of cluster them and manage everything, and then they're off to college, and at college they start to get into trouble. My case was different in that the issues I had, my labile diabetes issue, started to show its head, and I ran into problems. A lot of times it could be, well, if you just stop cheating. Yeah, there were times I went out, I bought candy, I had a sweet tooth, and my blood sugar ended up to be high. Yes, I was guilty. But getting those words when you weren't high is rather not painful, but really makes you want to prove them wrong, and you go off and you start dealing with stuff. I made a mistake as a young type 1 diabetic in that I went to the doctor, I took my little blood sugars. I've said this story before. I typed them all up because they were on different sheets of paper. I took my urine results to the doctor, and he said to me, "Oh, you're just lying here." And I didn't lie. I just said I typed them up. "Oh, well, this is just crap. You can't do that. You have to give me legitimate blood sugars." Well, the urines were matching what was going on in my body. And I said, no more. And I went for a few years without seeing a doctor. But I knew it all. That's one of the first big mistake as a type 1 diabetic teen, you have to know everything. How many tests did you show up for in school because you weren't prepared? So, a type 1 diabetic, when things don't go right, they're expecting to get yelled at, even though 90% of the time it was my body, not everything else. So, what do we do? Well, support. Don't nag about the blood sugars. Say, I'm interested in how you're doing with your blood sugar control. How can I best help you with that? For years, my dad would say, "How is your diabetes?" And I would say, "Oh, it's fine." And I tried to tell him he would always listen, but you could tell he didn't understand the in and out of things. So the subject was changed fairly quickly. And this continued on. 13 years old, getting diabetes. It was a brand new school. You're getting more freedoms, and here I get stuck with diabetes. I sometimes really wonder why my body decided to attack itself. Was it because of an illness? I don't know. And your son or daughter could have issues relating to A, the understanding, and B, they are looking for some sort of freedom. And you as parents coming back and saying, "Oh, you're high or you're low." What did you do? Is still very hard to accept. It's said here in a jokingly fashion, but my mind goes back to that period. It was kind of like, well, you follow what the doctor says, and you're going to be fine. In my teenage years, I had my first bout of having severe low blood sugars. A lot of my grade 8 year, I ended up in the nurse's office. And the doctor or the school doctor was in the day, and I guess the nurses had tried to contact. And I really don't feel anyone asked. And if you go back a few days, when I said money talks here, it's the same sort of thing. You've got to start including your son or daughter easily into their diabetes. If things aren't working right, get them taken care of. See the doctor, see the diabetic educator. There are so much more programs out there now than there was when I started. Before you were diagnosed, you got put into the hospital for, I think, 4.5 weeks. It seemed longer at the time, but it was October 7th to the 31st. And that was great. You were on your way. You got your blood sugars, you got your amounts, and you stayed like that until the doctor saw you again. And you were told that if something happens, just go to emergency. The problem with that whole model is that diabetics were filling up the emergency rooms. Now, there could be times, and you'll see that in the next video, when you could end up in emergency, but a lot of times they found control could be achieved at home. And how do we achieve that? Well, giving them control little by little. They may start to feel, oh, I know everything. And I think allowing them a little bit of control over their life while teaching is probably the best route. Why waste your life and send them off on the path to disaster? Now you may feel, oh yes, my son, my daughter is going to do great. They know what to do. Well, how often are you checking? And start by asking open-ended questions. And if you get fine, well, they're not really wanting to say, well, I had a low blood sugar. Again, support is the key. Not parenting, oh, you did that wrong, oh, blah, blah, blah. Just think back when you were a teenager. Did you, for anything, not only diabetes, but did you think, oh, well, yes, that was such a good approach? Didn't work that way. So think about it. And with that, have a super day. We'll talk again. Bye. My email is mikesdiabetesworld@gmail.com. mikesdiabetesworld@gmail.com.